Does Gloucestershire Police needs retraining? About close passes? Or maybe the person who sent this footage wasn't actually close passed. I'm Łukasz, known as Phone Kills on X and Twitter and possibly YouTube, and I spent some years reporting my own events to Metropolitan Police, and I researched for the book, which I'll mention later, about third-party reporting. So being exposed to quite big amount of different evidence in different cases, I have some fair judgment about what potentially could be prosecuted, but I'm not a lawyer and I'm not officer. So this is just my opinion based on my experience and my understanding of the topic. It's not advice, and I will be criticizing some parties, but it's for everyone's benefit. So please don't feel too triggered or too offended if I call you out, but maybe try to learn something from that. So let's take a look on this footage. I'll put it over here. So what we see over here is Toyota Aygo is approaching our cyclist over here. We can see there's apparently some pedestrian aisle or some other obstruction in front. We see PAP, which will be quite useful when we'll be finding this position on the map to measure distance. It looks like the road is not actually widening, but we'll have to verify that. And we see that Toyota is actually occupying most of a lane. So let's see what's happening next. So as I said, there is a pedestrian aisle. In most of the places in UK, if a driver will stay in the same lane, and he has to or she has to, they have to stay in the same lane over here to overtake the cyclist. If a driver stays over there, that will be obvious close pass. In Wales, for instance, the driver will have to actually fully move to the other lane, otherwise that will be classified by the close pass. And let's pay attention to this specific position of a driver towards the lane. This lane will be narrowing over the time, but very slightly. So let's take a look. What is the position after passing the aisle? And as you see, as they are approaching, the position doesn't change. They're still in the same place in the aisle, in a lane, but there's another thing interesting happening on this view. While the driver position is not changing, the cyclist position, you can see that by moving the camera, cyclist is taking evasive action. And this is one of the judgments used by CPS when it comes to driving without due care, also inconsiderate driving toward the other road users, is when your manner of driving is causing other road users to stop or slow down or to change their direction. That will be classified by the offence. That's how the Met is interpreting that, and how CPS, at least in London, will be taking that in account. And you can see further the position really doesn't change. On this view, we see, actually don't see too much. It looks like the driver is going even slightly inwards. But this kind of camera is not very useful when we want to judge the close passes. Why? Because as you see, there are many lines that are skewed. This head camera has a massive fisheye effect, which will prove it difficult to calibrate any measurements to show the real distances. It's not very useful for close passes. It's useful for anything else, and also to show you the generic situation, because you can turn your head and you can show what's happening. But this view will be quite useful. We see this brick wall, which I'll use to find a specific location. And we see there's very slight bend on the road, which will take in account when we'll be trying to judge that picture, because it will be important in terms of perspective. So overall, if you look on this picture, it really looks like a close pass, quite classical. There's no way this driver was more than 1.5 meters. And let it be even like on the slower distances, even not a meter from the cyclist. Remember, this distance have to include the cyclist. Their own width will be 0.5 meter at least, with elbows outside. So this is far not enough to fit next to the cyclist. Very close pass, very dangerous. And even from Toyota Aygo, the main problem with close passes is that there is small draft of wind going towards the cyclist, which can basically flip them to the pavement, and they can hit the head. Helmets aren't really meant to secure against that. Let's take a look on the place where it happened. And it's apparently happening over here next to this pub. We can see pedestrian aisle, and I have previously made measurements, but let's even take a look once again. Google Maps is not very accurate, so you will have to run distances to 20 centimeters, something. I'm measuring over here. We have, and this is quite similar, the width of a lane over here. The width of a lane is 280 more or less. And then if we take a look on the pavement, it will be 1/2, 140. Width of the aisle will be around 130 more or less as well. That is enough to calibrate our camera. So this is the app I made over a few evenings to help judge similar situations, and we use it to try to judge and present this situation to potentially CPS and police. Feel free to use it. It's free to use. You can use it as an extra addition to the evidence you are supplying to the police force. So I will upload the image. It's this screenshot. And the first thing I would like to do is to more or less calibrate. I'll be calculating distances, and I will use few specific points of reference. You can see over here, there's this pedestrian crossing over here, which we can calibrate more or less the position. There will be small skew over here in perspective, and this, I'll use this, and over here, actually, I'm judging the width of and over here, I'll be leaning to this line over here, the white line. Now, I will be interested in these guides over here. The blue lines on the top will tell me if the horizontal lines are off. This item should more or less align. So now I'll have distances we would like to put. I will actually split these elements and put my distances. So I thought there's 1.5, 1 and 3 meter for the aisle, 2 and 8 for the lane, and 1 for the pavement. And almost straight away, this proves the quality of this camera, because the subject of a camera is far off, and this camera has a very good calibration. It doesn't make too much skewing. You can see that immediately the distances fit. I don't have to play with my perspective measure, which I'll have to do probably with the other picture or other cameras. Like my GoPro Session 4 requires small calibration compared to this one. This is good enough. And then Theta IGO is 174. If I come back and I will split my middle segment and try to make it to 1.7, actually it fits. That means there was just around 1 meter 10 centimeters or even less to fit the cyclist. The cyclist who itself, assuming down maximally to the curb, we split that distance again. And if we give like 50 centimeters, if they were really in a gutter, there will be around 0.5 meter between wheelbase of a driver and the cyclist. I'm not counting the rear view mirrors. Just based on this image, there is no ground, in my opinion, for Gloucestershire Police to say there was no offence. This is a school case, book case of a close pass. And in my opinion, the officers did not take the reporter seriously. So I have over here another picture we made from the back, and I already calibrated that with a perspective. This camera had a small skew, and as I said, we had to be quite careful about the small bend at top. So I had to make our area smaller, so we're counting smaller distance. And I have a quite similar measurements. I had to actually check on the map in this place. So we have this place over here. We had to measure the whole width of a lane, which is 7.6 of 2 lanes and 3.3 for this specific lane. Even with small calibration, we can see there's already small skew because of a fisheye effect, but distances are more or less similar. And even if we split again that and give our Toyota, which isn't actually within, so there should be small margin over here, there is still like 1.5 meter that will have to include. So if we're splitting that, it will have to include the cyclist, which again, even if this measurement, which is more in favor of a driver, This is clearly close pass, and Gloucestershire Police should really take action. And they have no excuses because Gloucestershire Police, you are using single home portal, the same system that is used by the best performing forces in England. You have access to the same tools as your colleagues in Metropolitan Police. Why you are not taking things seriously? To release that video, when I noticed something strange about Gloucestershire Police or Constabulary, how do you pronounce this very difficult word, website. So you are using single home portal. Amazing. The same which is used as a standard across the forces, most of the forces now in England. And you try to report something. So let's try, I want to report traffic incident. I go on a map, which is again the same one. Let's say somewhere in Gloucester. I'm not very familiar, so let's take some. We're just trying, wouldn't be submitting anything. We go over here. No one collided. Possible traffic offense, less than 7 days. I have evidence and I'm ready. And I'm on a different webpage. This is actually old OpSnap webpage, which is fine. Okay, you have your tools. I have no idea what you're not using. The tools provided you with a single home portal, which is standard. Like 100 forces using single home portal will use features within single home portal. But okay. But then you ask many questions, actually more questions about the witness than about the offender. And the most bizarre for me is asking so many questions about how the footage was recorded, about the camera, how it was mounted, and how the footage was secured or collected. And what you are doing over here, you are collecting a number of information that is not really helping to prosecute the offender. It's helping offender to get away. Why? Because most of these things aren't really relevant. If you can measure on the footage close pass by reference to other points, that's good enough. If you can show handheld device visible in someone's hand, that's good enough. But the moment you start adding technical details, you are putting place for the defendant to start questioning certifications, attests, or the paperwork connected to like procedural part of collecting evidence and even like the quality of the footage, which may be totally non-material to the case. But because the cases are presented in front of magistrates who aren't technical gurus, who aren't even like legal professionals, they are members of the public who have some training and they have to be convinced by other side. The moment you give this to the solicitor of the defendant, because you haven't to enclose the report, you have to enclose the witness statement. At this point, you are just giving them get off the jail free card. You are standing on the side of people who are committing road crime. And another thing also what you're doing, you're making it more difficult for members of the public to help you, which is totally against 9 principles of policing by consent by Pew. Not really by Pew, you can read in my book why it's not by Pew. So coming back to the original video, but please use tools that everyone is using. And maybe the answer is not in a bad will, but lack of training. Based on the FOI request I made to Gloucestershire Police while writing the book, it turns out that more or less a year ago, they were accepting the evidence for around 3 years, which is quite a short period, and they need more training, more knowledge in this case. It seems like a simple case. If you read highway code, it's just black on white, point simple. It is very straightforward. It really bothers me why. Maybe they require someone coming from it or from the national part of the force to give them training. Please invite Andy Cox or one of his people, or maybe speak to Mark Hodson or speak to your colleagues from Sheffield. Very good reports from Yorkshire. Ask your colleagues from Wales. Wales had one of the best and first trials of Op Close Pass and OpSnap in the whole country, and they had a massive success with reduction of fatal crashes on the area. So tell me what you think. I hope the next report that Cycling Nerd will report will be taken seriously and the action will be taken. In the meantime, If you like to dig more into history of third-party reporting, how it works, how it was started in different forces across the country, who were the first people to report, and why people are doing that, and how actually legally someone can record someone and report to the police, and why we're expecting even people to do that, take a look on the book Record, Retreat, Report, interviews with many amazing people who started to report dangerous drivers, but also amazing police officers who disrupted the whole concept, and they started to work closer to communities to make our roads safer. It's available on Amazon, in other bookstores. Have a safe ride, stay safe, and be good on roads. Don't escalate, don't interact, record, retreat, and report.